Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today is Friday. It's the last day of our classic kind of wrap-up week here.
Okay.
I'm finally getting over my cold.
Good.
Sort of. I say cold, and my voice kind of cracks as I do that because I'm not over it yet.
No, you're not.
My classic cold. And so we got one more episode to do. And this is kind of we did a prediction about the classic, and we did some classic gossip.
Right.
So now we're going to put this together. I've got a prediction about a new rule that's going to be coming out in B.A.S.S for next year, kind of related to some gossip that I heard, but you guys are going to be able to say that when it happens, you're going to say you heard it here first on MFO. I remember I heard Mark and Megan talk about this right after the classic.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everyone. I'm Megan Fuller.
I'm Mark Fisher.
So, Mark, you can't leave me in the dark here. Like, what is this about?
Well, it's about forward-facing sonar, and based on the conversations that I was involved in during the classic about forward-facing sonar, and some of the things that, we talked about Hank Parker coming out, and Mark Menendez has come out since then, and things like that. There will be a change in the rules for forward-facing sonar.
So this is just a thought of yours?
Let me just say this. I am saying this like a prediction, okay?
Okay.
There will be a change in the rules for forward-facing sonar on B.A.S.S by next year. And I will tell you that I think the rules are going to be that there will only be one forward-facing sonar transducer allowed on a boat. You can't have two. You won't even be able to have like a forward-facing and a perspective mode. There'll just be one transducer allowed, and that they will limit the number of screens. And I think the way they will limit the number of screens is by inches, meaning you can have a total of 48 inches worth of screens. Oh, you got four 12-inch screens or two 24-inch screens or something like that. They will say you've got a certain number of inches of screens. I am not telling you that I think that that's a good rule or a bad rule. I'm not judging any of that in today's episode.
Okay.
You can judge.
I don't fully understand it.
Okay, I get that. What I'm telling you is this is based on what I've heard. This is what I think is going to happen next year. There will be a forward-facing sonar rule that says one transducer and 48 inches maximum number of screens per angler's boat. That's the way they're going to respond to the criticisms that come around. The PGA limits golf clubs or golf balls or baseball with the aluminum bats. They're going to say, okay, here's our guidelines. This is the maximum that you're going to have.
And how does 48 inches and one transducer, how does that limit forward-facing sonar?
Well, right now you've got guys that have fixed transducers, fixed forward-facing transducers out the side of the boat so that they're driving and scanning, looking for schools of fish.
Okay.
Then they put their trolling motor down, and they might have one forward-facing and then another in a perspective mode where they can scan out this way. So they've got a number of different transducers. One of the best guys out there right now with forward-facing sonar is Drew Gill, and he's got one transducer. He's killing. So do I think it's going to do anything? I think I just gave you my answer. But that's not what this episode is about right now. This episode is about, you heard it here first. This is what the rule is going to be. B.A.S.S is going to come out with this rule, and this is my prediction that the rule is going to be. Now, maybe things change, like people say, well, they're moving in the right direction, because right now there isn't any limit at all.
Right.
And maybe that changes by the time it gets there, but I think that's at least that's the talk that's going on right now.
Okay. So we're not really talking about if this is a good thing or a bad thing. We're just simply.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think that, like you said, it's moving in a direction, but it doesn't sound like it is enough of a direction. It just sounds like B.A.S.S is saying, "Oh, we need to do something, so let's figure out the smallest something we can do while still saying we're doing something." Is how I view that. But I'm guessing I can say that because I'm not an angler.
Well, but you're kind of from I don't know what you'd call it, but from an outsider's perspective or a novice's perspective, you've got an unjaded perspective, and it's probably, there's some accuracy to that, I would think. So, guys, like I said, we wanted to wrap up the Classic Week. This is the information, and so now you have that information, and again, you hear a lot when you're at the Classic, and you see a lot, and it's a really, really cool event to go to, and for us to be able to have this platform to be able to kind of share a little bit with you, that's nice to be able to do that.
Leave your comments and say, do you think that would change anything? Would that even matter, that rule? And along with comments, how about subscribe as well?
Sure, absolutely. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everybody who's been subscribing to the channel. It's Friday, so we hope you have a good weekend, and we will be back on Monday for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.
Stay channeled.